A portion of this video is brought to you by Sheath Underwear. For more information about Sheath Underwear, visit the link in the description or wait till the end of this video to hear more from me. The phrase, I have to wait until 30 seconds has passed before I curse, but F-A, F-O, F around and find out. I'll censor myself. That phrase has been around much longer than the Proud Boys would have you believe. It's kind of, they've adopted it, so it became their thing. F-A-F-O. They didn't come up with it. But really, the schadenfreude of many of us, including me, that I have to tamp down because when people are hurting, even if they voted for Donald Trump, other people get caught up in that who didn't vote for Donald Trump, and that's a problem. But there's so many stories out there, and I'm reticent to cover all of them or even a lot of them because it doesn't really serve, other than it serves this particular purpose, which is not I told you so, not we told you so, not we know and you were stupid, none of that. It's that hopefully you learned from this. Hopefully you take in this information and you alter the manner with which you make decisions, especially about politics, especially about who leads us, because of the aftermath left in the wake of Donald Trump and Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation and all these ghouls. So recently on Twitter, I'm not going to talk about this today, but recently on Twitter, there was some goofball who's like, they're turning off my funding. I signed a contract and now the government's not going to do it. Oh. He voted for Donald Trump. And now he's out there like, oh, I didn't know. I don't have a TV. I wasn't informed. It's not my fault that I voted for the guy who's now destroying my livelihood and the farm I've worked so hard to build. I feel for him because I don't know if he has kids, but those kids didn't ask for this. They didn't vote. There's going to be real harm to his family, to his livelihood. I feel less bad for him because he's a dipshit who voted for Donald Trump and brought this on himself, talking about personal responsibility and pulling yourself by your bootstraps and all this nonsense. But this is a story that's very similar to that. And it has to do with green energy and jobs and manufacturing. All things, not all things, not the green energy part of it, but jobs and manufacturing and the economy. All of these things that Republicans bang a drum about, like it's so important and it's revitalizing America's position as a manufacturing industrial powerhouse. And they're going to be cutting all of these programs that have to do with green energy, clean energy, because it's woke or it's whatever. And it's part of the Biden agenda that they're going to try to scuttle at every moment. The problem lies in this particular map that I'm going to show you when I read from this New York Times article that shows you red states fucked around, and they're going to find out. They're finding out right now that much of the green energy manufacturing and the jobs and the economic benefits are being felt in red states, and that's going to be cut off. We're going to lose thousands of jobs. America is going to lose thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands or more jobs related to this sector. And Donald Trump doesn't care because his buddies and himself, who are going to make piles and piles and piles of money from fossil fuel, they want that spigot turned off. They don't care about the jobs or the net effect, the net negative effect that's going to come from the jobs initiatives. So here's the headline from the New York Times. Trump is freezing money for clean energy. Red states have the most to lose. About 80% of manufacturing investments spurred by the Biden-era climate law have flowed to Republican districts. Efforts to stop federal payments are already causing pain. Already. Donald Trump has been president for 22 days, roughly. I think that's about the math. Fewer than 30 days, less than a month. And they're already feeling the pain that they brought on themselves by letting their North Star, their guiding principle, be racism and fear of gay people and transgender people. So they're going to hurt themselves in order to ensure that more pain is felt by disparate minority groups who aren't just straight white men. Pretty gross. Here's the article. In less than 3 weeks, President Trump has thrown the U.S. clean energy industry into chaos, with much of the economic damage hitting Republican states and districts. In a quest to eliminate any funding linked to climate change, the Trump administration has frozen federal grants for everything from battery factories to electric school buses, and issued executive orders that have halted federal approvals for wind and solar projects. Mr. Trump and Republicans in Congress are also working to repeal the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, which is projected to pour hundreds of billions of dollars over the next decade into low-carbon energy technologies through tax credits, loans, and grants. So far, Republican voting communities have benefited the most from that law. One more time for the people in the back of the room. So far, Republican voting communities have benefited the most from that law. In the nearly 3 years since it passed, private companies chasing the law's tax breaks have announced plans to spend $165.8 billion to build factories that make solar panels, wind turbines, electric vehicles, and more, according to new data from Atlas Public Policy, a research firm. Roughly 80% of those investments are in Republican congressional districts where they are creating a once-in-a-generation manufacturing boom that Donald Trump is now getting rid of. That Republicans voted for themselves. He told you what he was going to do. What did you think he was going to do when he said what he would do? There was a over 900-page document that outlined exactly what would take place when Donald Trump took office in Project 2025, Vision for America, or whatever the they called it. The vision to destroy America, the economy, communities. Look at this. Let's take a look at this. Throughout the South, from North Carolina to South Carolina to Georgia, into Alabama, Indiana, Ohio, all of these states are going to be, we'll just look at the numbers here. The Battery Belt stretches from Michigan to Georgia and includes mostly Republican districts. $12.7 billion for Toyota battery plant in North Carolina's 9th district. A $12.7 billion Toyota battery plant. All of these companies that Donald Trump has tried to act like he lured in, that it's because of him that they're going to make investments in America, in our economy, he's now just completely turning his back on because it doesn't mesh with their idea of taking us back to when the only options for energy were petroleum and coal. Make it make sense. The Inflation Reduction Act, along with a separate 2021 bipartisan infrastructure law, also provided tens of billions of dollars in grants that have since been awarded by the federal government to private companies, states, and nonprofit organizations. These are legally binding obligations that have allowed companies to make investments, sign leases, and hire workers with the expectation that they would be reimbursed by the government. 2 federal judges have ordered the Trump administration to end its freeze and release money from programs authorized by Congress, but there is evidence that several agencies are still blocking funding. We're seeing this right now with Donald Trump completely ignoring hiring freeze blocks by federal judges. They're just, or spending freezes, grant freezes. Judges have said, no, you can't do that. This is money that's been duly appropriated by a previous Congress, signed by a president of the United States. This is law. You can't just unilaterally decide you're not going to do this. And they're ignoring federal judges and their rulings. The uncertainty is delaying projects and halting investments in areas that voted for Mr. Trump. In Montana, a biofuels plant did not receive on time a $782 million payment it was owed. A more than $750 million payment that it was owed. Donald Trump stopped. In Montana. Not New York City, that's worth many trillions of dollars relative to their output. We're talking about Montana, a rural state, not a wealthy state. A nearly $1 billion investment is big. For anywhere, $1 billion investment is huge. And lack thereof turning your back on that money is devastating to companies, to employees, to families. There's a downstream deleterious effect of something like this that Donald Trump, the Republican Party, Project 2025, doesn't give a single shit about. The first part of a $1.67 billion federal loan guarantee. In Georgia, $1 billion in projects to modernize the power grid are on hold. In Nevada, a half dozen large solar projects on federal lands are caught in a permitting freeze. The upheaval has put Republicans in the tricky position of defending a White House that deems money for clean energy a waste of taxpayer dollars while working behind the scenes to protect their towns from the loss of new manufacturing jobs. So listen, this isn't just Republican voters who voted for this dipshittery. This is Republican members of Congress who are now also in the bandsaw, who want these investment dollars so then they can talk about it for campaigning purposes. That, look what I did. We did this. Oh, we brought this to the district. Yeah, you also backed the play of the fascist who wants to get rid of it. These people should all be replaced wholesale. Midterms, they're coming up. I know it seems hopeless at times that the Donald Trump administration will just run roughshod, unfettered with their fascistic agenda. But we have an election coming up, and we could turn the tide relative to the makeup of Congress. Donald Trump's there for 4 years, or until he dies from Big Mac sauce poisoning in his veins. Then we're going to have another Republican president after that. For this term, we need to wake up and start telling people what is happening. Inform the stupid among us who are bamboozled or don't have TVs or whatever, living under a rock, of exactly the damage being done by Donald Trump. One more paragraph that contains a quote. This is where, here's the quote, this is where we get a test of whether the Republican Party is a real political party serving its constituents or a personality cult, said Jason Walsh, executive director of the Blue-Green Alliance, a coalition of labor unions and environmental advocacy groups. Quote, I expect thousands of people to be laid off. I expect workers to be furloughed. I expect construction projects to halt, Mr. Walsh said. All of those things are economy killers. Donald Trump bragged he was going to bring the price of eggs down immediately. He was going to bring an end to the wars within his first day in office. And here we are nearly a month in, and egg prices are higher than they were when he took office. Gas prices are higher than they were when he took office. Wars are still raging on. They haven't stopped. And he's taking steps to destroy the American economy, or at least cripple it. Fuck around. Find out. We are now in the find out era of the Trump administration, because the effing around took place at the beginning of November, the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month, which was Election Day. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. You can also email me, daily@dollemore.com. I do want to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another. I talk nearly every day about how divided we are as a country and the havoc that this division wreaks. But not all divisions are bad, right? As a mathematical concept, for instance, division allows you to split things into equal parts, allowing for equal shares. Division of labor has, for thousands of years, allowed humans to evolve their efficiency and specialization when working on certain tasks. And you can ask any kid to tell you that dinner is far better when the meat is divided from the veg. And what's more annoying than when you're sitting at a cramped table or out in the humid weather than having your meat smashed into your two veg? Is the meat and veg metaphor working here? It's time to divide and conquer with Sheath. Sheath makes the most comfortable boxer briefs I have ever worn. Regular boxers are just too loose and bunchy and not great. And briefs are just a smush fest. Sheath are the solution. Head to sheath.com and use promo code Dollemore to score 20% off and upgrade to the most comfortable underwear you'll ever wear. I'm wearing a pair right now, and indeed, that may be all I'm wearing under the desk here. But really, sheaths are the only underwear I wear. Absolutely fact. Their testicular tech features dual pouches to keep your mane apart from your sides. More dinner metaphors. Note, if you're not into the division for some reason, you don't have to use the dual pouches at all. Just throw your sheaths on like regular pair of underwear and you're good to go. Also, Sheath's stretchy fabric is super soft and made with moisture-wicking technology to keep your president and his cabinet cool and comfortable throughout the rigors of the day. I love my sheaths all the time, but they are particularly clutch in the sticky heat of DC summers, which is basically like 9 months out of the year. They were invented by a U.S. Army veteran while serving a tour in Iraq. The idea for sheath came from discomfort in harsh environments. As a former Marine stationed in that part of the world, I get the inspiration. The airflow meshes are my personal favorite, but Sheath has tons of excellent styles and designs. Pick a pair and Sheath will hand them to your doorstep nearly instantly thanks to blindingly fast shipping and amazing customer service. Also, Sheath supports multiple charities like Socks for Soldiers and Doctors Without Borders. So with your purchase, you're making the world a better place too. Upgrade your undergarments, score 20% off right now when you head to sheath.com and use code Dollemore. Divide and conquer your discomfort with Sheath underwear.